Alright, so here's the project for today. That's a big zoom in. We're going to go over what this is a little bit, kind of answer a few questions that I had on some comment on the original short, and figured it would be as good of a time as any as we got try some new belt sizes. And this is the original belt. I think this is the third or fourth winter. It's gone through a few iterations and got smoked pretty good at the beginning. So we're gonna try a 64 and a 63. I think if I can get the 63 on, it'll be a little bit better, a little tighter. But we'll try those and we'll go over kind of what's going on with how the electric clutch works.
Okay, 63 is tight.
Well, that's a 63. It's a little tight, but I don't hate it. I think a little bit of run, that'll stretch right in. But here's what we have for a routing. Again, this is a 63-inch belt. It looks a little... It's going to be a little tight, but I think it'll stretch out pretty quick. The 64 had stretched to max adjustment. So this belt is starting all the way at the top, and I would say we have zero play, or yeah, almost zero. I wish the belt was just a quarter, half-inch longer, or I could maybe lower that, but this is what we got. We're gonna see what a 63 belt does. Power with a jump pack. Let's go choke on, fuel on. We'll go half throttle. Make sure we got fuel for tomorrow. Yeah, we might want to put some gas in there. So put some gas in there. So you can kind of see we got not a lot, about, I don't know, 2-3 inches. Yeah, last night. And sounds like we got another 1 to 3 tonight. So I figured this would be a good time. We'll get this set back up with a nice tight belt, see if that helps with some of that squeaking. And you can see just that little bit of break-in, which really I should have done some more. Just let that belt get hot. But we'll do it tomorrow, and it looks to be, tracking pretty well. Like I said, the other belt was the original belt. Been through probably 2 winters at least, and it was just getting where I could hear screeching in the clutch where I think it was just the belt was slipping and then causing a little bit of to the clutch. You can kind of see a little bit of rust starting in there. But again, this is 2 winters on that clutch. It doesn't stay outside in the weather most of the time, but it's typically lives its life in the covered shed. Maybe we'll put a little clip in if I can find it. Or just popping it off, towing the kids. We still got some grass from the field stuck in there. But it wasn't bad. It was maybe 20 minutes to take it off and put it back on. Some upgrades we do need to do are figure out some way to carry this weight of the engine, either a wheel or counterbalancing that other side, which is kind of where I want to go, is counterbalancing it. I was hoping by hanging the battery off over here it would help offset that. So this is actually the old bracket that would, I believe, cover the belt there on the original John Deere lawn tractor attachment. And I just welded some threaded rod and made an aluminum tie down. But that's where we're at. We'll get some footage in the morning of using it and seeing how it goes. We got glare ice under the snow, so we'll see if what do we have, 120 pounds on the back is enough. We are clearly running bald tires that have the most air that they ever have probably had in them. Little shot of the rear. So the plow frame is hooked up via this hitch, which will include a quick video towing boats around the yard with the snowblower on. And then it's attached here with these 2 brackets. And then these heim joints, which should be changed to regular pivot points. As you can see, if I zoom in, I actually kind of welded the heims so they wouldn't rotate as much. It was a great idea for alignment to get them on, but there's too much weight that it wants to rotate and twist, and it won't pick up and down square. The weight's too unbalanced. So that's where we're gonna have to get some balancing in. Plus, I've added some structure here, a little brace here. That again, it kind of comes over here, but we're still fighting with those flexing. Which again, it's full quarter, but just the weight of that engine keeps either flexing the bracket or it's turning the bar. It may just be turning the bar, but that's something we got to figure out, just because without that strap, it won't pick up evenly, and it's kind of a pain. So we'll see how that all goes tomorrow. This is this year's kind of upgrade to just make this a little better. Find a spot is zip tied a 2x4 to the bar, or the rack, I guess. And then a couple screws here, so if I do have to pull the machine off, it's just 2 zip ties and this goes off. But it gives me ability from sitting right on the machine to just move it, rotate it. The engine being uncounterbalanced has kind of caused this from everything twisting to the side. But honestly, it hasn't even rubbed through what is here for a decal on this old Kymco cat. That runs to the battery, and this is the wire that runs up into the switch to ignite the exciter, which basically turns the alternator on. All right, starting up at the switch panel here, we have the alternator exciter and then PTO engagement switch. So this is what turns the alternator on. This is what turns the clutch on. And then we have some lights. Which the clutch does use a lot of juice. So with a bad battery and the alternator pushing 13 volts, it'll dim lights and they slip. So you really need a good battery if you want to run lights and a PTO clutch. Fortunately, I don't need the lights very often and they just kind of look cool. So I'm getting away with a bad battery. I kind of charge it up, or sometimes I'll just use my jump pack to get it engaged and let the alternator charge it up for a minute before starting. It does also run the engine starter, but that does have a pull start and starts second pull if the battery's dead. But anywho, we got the alternator on, clutch on. You know, we just got disconnects. We gotta kind of redo all these into a nice connector, but for now they're just quick connect. That was this year we had to pull it off to pull the sled around. So I had to make a quick disconnect with what I had there. But this is all gonna get redone into like an Amphenol. So you get all your wires come down currently to the battery. Again, I'd like to split this off on a fuse panel, but they are relayed and fused, and it's all done with correct harnesses. But we have our battery power going out, and I have obviously the leads here going to the clutch. So the clutch is here. It is off of an X-Mark Laser Z lawnmower. I kind of just made a bracket here with a 5/16 bolt to locate it. You can kind of see, this is actually the second bolt. I don't remember what happened, but I think I fried the first clutch and it locked up. That was before we had an alternator. We just didn't have enough juice and blew the clutch up and sheared that right off. And this one's held up for a while, but it's got some bends to it. I lost the screw vibrated out there. These were odd sizes in the case. But I had to do, can't quite see, but back in there, I believe, is where there's some shims. So I had to shim it to fit properly on the end of the snout. And there's just some small things to put a random clutch on any engine. You know, obviously I had to make sure the rotation and all that stuff was good. But that was it as far as putting this clutch made for whatever motors on an X-Mark Laser Z to this Duramax 18. It was just I had to make a couple shims out of, I think I bought shim stock and made it off Amazon, some thin 1-inch or whatever the shaft size is. And then we have an idler here, which literally is just a part we unbolted from the original John Deere snowblower. Same thing here with a little spacer to line it up with the original impeller pulley. And the magic that makes all this happen is our alternator here, which you can see our big battery cables that run up to the battery. I believe it's off a 350 Chevy. I have all the info on Amazon, but it's locked on now. But the adjuster here, we got a little bracket, swing it up and down.